Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Just Seen podcast. And today, as you've seen from the title, we're going to be talking about the education system, and we're going to be talking about the functional dysfunction that this education system brings. Okay, this episode is probably going to be one that changes almost reality for you, in a sense. Yeah, you know how we always say shit like they do this, the forces that be. What if we actually know who's the forces that be and what the actual name is? Some of us know, but then some of us even know the names but don't know the connection of what I'm about to talk about today, right? But it's gonna get really, really deep, right? The 1900s was a very pivotal point. Y'all know I've been going back and forth with, a lot of the shit that's been going on, especially like with Rona. You feel me? I was telling motherfuckers heavy. Think about the Spanish flu of 1918. Go back to that time. You feel me? This is a repeated cycle. This is something that has happened before. But in that time, I started to look at other things because something, kind of flooded across my information database. You feel me? And I'm looking back over, I knew that there was a reason why I always had a problem with the education system. And I always had a problem with just information as a whole. When I would always say, like, yo, the education system doesn't teach you to learn and teach you rote memorization, the school to prison pipeline. Y'all know I went down every gamut possible of, what's what and what's what things to identify, right? But for the first time, I finally have the pinpointed idea as to why this shit is the way it is. This episode, more likely than not, is going to, by the time I finish this, I already know I'm gonna have a different understanding. I already know for a fact I have a lot more patience. Like, just with the understanding, I have a lot more patience with people as far as them being smart or not. And this episode is going to piss a lot of people off, especially the highly educated, especially those people, because there's been situations where I would hear people say somebody has a PhD, they can't believe they made a certain decision or whatever the case may be. And I'd be telling them these degrees and titles don't mean shit, y'all. Y'all need to understand that. And when y'all understand that the more educated you are, the more uneducated you really are. No, the more educated you are, the more unlearned you are. Is going to be a very valid point here. Unless, of course, you stick outside of the normal shit and you go into your own realms of study and shit. But outside of that, if your only dependence is the education system, you stupid as fuck, respectfully. Um, and it blows my mind how all of this time we integrated into a system. We wanted to assimilate into a system like this, and now we did, and now we can't understand why we slow now. I've been saying it for a long time. As compared to our ancestors, we're mentally retarded. And it comes off as, because when you look at the ancestors that you're trying to label that, like when they say ancestors, we started as slaves, they think that, okay, yeah, that makes sense. We're not mentally retarded compared to them. But when we look at our whole history and that being an interruption in our history, we became mentally retarded, and the mental retardation started with that. You feel me? But it got me because I'm like, yo, we don't think. I never really got it. And I always talked about the school system doesn't design you to think. It makes you recall information, makes you be able to state facts, and it makes you an obedient, smart, well-trained human. And a lot of people don't see that because of the status and the title that they may get, but they're just well-trained humans and have no other skills. And as I started to think about it, like, this comes into my own perspective of dealing with entrepreneurs and stepping into the entrepreneur space and having to make that transition of, you got to think as an entrepreneur and dealing with like MLMs and shit and why people want cookie cutter shit, why the Forex game and all that, like all of that shit is going to be revealed in this episode, and it's going to be very, very impactful. But before we dive into that, be sure to follow me on Instagram, _just_see_. Be sure to check out my website at IamJustSeen.com to get all things that are just seen. To all those who tip, donate, and sponsor the podcast, you are greatly appreciated. To all those who would like to tip, donate, and sponsor the podcast, you could do so by clicking the link in the description of your podcast. Not this episode, but the podcast itself. And the vibes, Cash App and PayPal are just fine. And as always, that's that for this and that's this for that. So we are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to dive into education, functional dysfunction. And don't forget to visit IamJustSeen.com. There, you can get all things Just Seen. You want to add the So For Real series to your library? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to learn how to master the markets for serious trading and investing? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to get your hands on some exclusive merch like tees, hoodies, coffee mugs, hats, bags? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Are you thinking about transitioning into the plant-based lifestyle? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You ever want to just chat with Seen about anything from simple advice to mentorship? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Anything and everything that is me, you can find at IamJustSeen.com. So take a quick peek into my world to see why being just seen is nothing less but always more. Because you never really know what you need until you see it, and you will never see it unless you visit IamJustSeen.com. All right. Welcome back. And without further ado, we're gonna dive straight into this motherfucker. I'm gonna go ahead and kick this bitch out because I know I was very ominous and vague in the beginning. Usually I give y'all a little bit of glimpses into it, but now I want the meat and potatoes to be saved straight for the meat and potatoes. So what prompted all of this? This entire episode was, you already know how I feel about the education system is based off rote memorization and everything, but I'm doing some studying, right? And I don't know how I end up where I end up sometimes, but I'd be glad that I end up there. So as I'm doing some studying, I come across John D. Rockefeller, right? John D. Rockefeller. John D. Rockefeller was a cold motherfucker, right? We look at the Rockefellers for oil. Like, he controlled oil for a long time, and that's how he amassed his fortune and shit. I believe it is. I want to say it's oil because it wasn't the trains. It was, or he was selling to George, whatever it was. He had his control over oil. And this was at the turn of the revolution, industrial revolution, so the 1900s, which is crazy because it's like, we look at the way they make history look. You think the Rockefellers was old as shit. Like, you feel me? I be thinking the Rockefellers ran back to like that. They didn't, they weren't alive in the 1900s. Nah, they were alive in the 1900s, in the early 1900s to be exact. Reason why this is important is because if we understand reality, right? Our grandparents, definitely our great-grandparents, but possibly our grandparents were alive or born when John Rockefeller was alive. So it's like saying, what does this matter? Because that means that we're literally 3 generations from a decision that he made that affected the world. And a lot of people don't understand that. We look at how Rockefellers and them control the country, but just how do they control it? So in the early 1900s, during the Industrial Revolution, when they were changing the guards, right? Industrial Revolution. This is following, of course, the civil rights, the Civil War, the 1865, and then we're moving into the early 1900s. Industrial Revolution's booming, roaring 20s. This is how the 20s roared. It's gonna make so much fucking sense. So early 1900s, just before the swine flu and all of that other shit, the Spanish flu, John D. Rockefeller uttered these words: "I do not want a nation full of thinkers. I need a nation full of workers." Now I get it. It's like, well, Sing, what does that mean, right? Because there's a thing called cause and effect, right? When you initiate a cause, an effect is supposed to happen. So after he uttered those words, I want to say he put like 1.7 billion, not million, not trillion, billion with a B. He upped and put $1.7 billion of his own money to create what we know as the foundational piece of the education system and the core curriculum. The K through 12 shit, that was him buying the education system and forcing them. Because I always wonder, like, what did they really learn in those days? They didn't have to really learn shit. This was basically agricultural schools. Like, if you look at most of the schools in southern states, they have like A&Ts, agriculture and technical colleges and shit. Like, there's agriculture and tech. Now we look at what a good school is, right? And a good school is one that is supposedly gonna get you a good job. Tying it back to what this motherfucker said. So John Rockefeller said, "I need a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers." And then he goes and puts his money where his mouth is and creates the education system as we know it today. Very, very impactful to know because from that education system, he created the core curriculum. Now, this was early 1900s, so not too long after he did that education system, he then goes to fund before he funded the American Cancer Society or the American Cancer Association, whichever one it is, before he goes on to fund that, he goes off to buy the medical colleges off and then creates and establishes the curriculum for that, which is very important because up until the 1900s, every medical physician was holistic. Blows your mind, right? Every medical physician was a holistic physician. Outside of doing surgeries and the ER shit, everybody was holistic in their approach. Makes sense when you really think about it. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Now the apples don't do shit no more, but an apple a day used to keep a doctor away because the doctors were on the holistic side prior to the shift in the early 1900s. So he buys out the education system, then he buys out the medical school and changes the curriculum from the holistic side to more the homeopathic. I think that's what it is now, or not homeopathic. Yeah, I think it's homeopathic or whatever it is. He changed the curriculum to what it is that we know now, where it's now in cahoots with the pharmaceutical companies, which also started to boom in the 1900s. But even more than that, the banking system started as well. So in moving the money, you need people to help you move this money. This is very, very important because a lot of this stuff is about it's turning the industrial revolution, stock markets, all of this shit. All of this shit is going to be linked to the education system being the first thing that happened. So when Mr. Rockefeller did his shit and bought out the education system, now he creates the core curriculum. This is important because these people, by buying the corporations or whatever the case may be, they turn United States not from a country but into an actual corporation, which is why you need, it's already been a corporation, which is why they had presidents. They already did it, but they actually bought it off and sold it as a corporation. Right? United States is a corporation. It is not a country. North America is the country. United States is the entity, is the business, right? And you're the employee. But the employees start from the education system. Because again, he says, I do not want a nation of thinkers. I need a nation of workers. Which now, there's a reason why I said that with our grandparents and shit is because now when we fast forward, what did a lot of us hear growing up? You go to school to get a good education, to get a good job. I wonder who started that propaganda. If you get a good education, you get a good job. You get a good education, you get a good job. Not realizing that the education that I get doesn't teach me anything. And it makes sense. Why would the CEO teach you how to live next door to him? Right? So now, like I said, tying it in when he buys out that, and then now he has the American Medical Association, and that's what it was. He bought the American Medical Association and the American Cancer Society. These are all important because they templated the world. They templated the world in the sense that every curriculum in the United States became the standard of the education curriculum of the global economic shit or whatever the case may be, and all these other things that created this quote unquote global competition for over commerce. And it's always been over money. I always heard about the global competition, the global commerce, what I'm saying, situation. I never really understood the commerce part, but it's all about money. How can I guarantee that this money is going to flow? If I create a job, how can I guarantee that I'm going to have workers? I put the workers there. I need to now control every moving piece on this board. So now I create this education system. So now here's why I mentioned that it started in the 1900s, because now this is 3 generations. As a black man, my grandparents were not able to go to school, right? My grandparents weren't able to go to school. My mom was able to go to school, which made me, there's only my mom and my dad were able to go to school. And even my dad, he didn't finish, but he didn't finish on some other shit. Well, he had to because he was in the military. Somebody lying. Anywho, I mean, we got his GED probably. I don't know. But either way, He had to finish. The nigga ended up in the military, or he could have got drafted. I don't know. I don't remember. I wasn't born. But the point that I'm making with that is that watching how this got structured was crazy. Because then I started listening to how people was like, yo, I was naturally left-handed, but they made me right-handed. And I'd be like, who? Who made you right-handed? What do you mean? Well, when we went to school, they told us if you was left-handed, you got beat till you wrote with your right hand. There's people I hear stories about, and it's people I've talked to directly who are traumatized because were forced to write with their, like they were popped with rulers, they were beat into writing with their right hand. And I was like, for real? And it makes me wonder, were you really in a school to learn, or were you really in a school to become a worker? And now, because we're creating in this industrial revolution, we're creating systems and workers that are right hand dominant. You have to be right handed to work these efficiently. You feel me? Because the way in which we're putting you on the assembly line, you need to be right hand dominant. I was like, wow, hold up, wait a minute. Because, Henry Ford and all these motherfuckers started like, look at the big names that all worked together at that time. The early 1900s, the names that are pretty much reigning supreme, the Henry Fords, the Rockefellers, the Chase Morgans, it's certain things that are still standing today that are standing today because of the systems that they made then. One thing you always hear me say, if it's a system in America, that motherfucker works. It works exactly as it's supposed to. The worst system and the greatest system at the same time that has the biggest illusion is the education system. Whole time your motherfucking ass think you getting smart, but you being made dumber and dumber. Blew my fucking mind when I really came to terms with that, because I'm like, I can't get mad at people who aren't smart anymore. I can't get mad at people who don't think anymore, because you were not designed to think. Now, here's why I took that back all the way to the 1900s and mentioned our grandparents, possibly great grandparents. If we're keeping it, and the reason why I said great grandparents, because I know my great grandmother, she was born in 1910. She was born in 1910. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of, right there. And seeing that will be 4 generations for me. Some of us have 4, some of us had 3. But imagine every generation, the propaganda is go to school, get a good education. It comes off so natural and so cliche that it's like, just do it. But why was that the propaganda, to go to school and get a good education, when the education is nothing but training? It's formal training to complete some. We even know it to this day, right? We'll ask, why do I need experience when you just gonna train me how to do it your way anyway? A lot of us has caught the game anyway. They kind of picked up. They're like, niggas ain't gonna go to school no more because they know it's a game. So now this is how this is gonna work. Because how now the banks tie into the education system, right? The banks tie into the education system off of the college loans, right? School loans. All right, I'm gonna make you have to pay for this. Why the fuck is college not free? As easy as like, when you really think about it, college is really easy relatively. But now when I know that I can capitalize in every facet of your life, and now I can own you. The education system is the prerequisite into slavery, into the new modern slavery. We don't need shackles anymore. We don't need whips. We don't need any of that. We just need credit scores. We can control every fucking thing about your life with a credit score based off of how we educate you. Off the education system, I know how to create a criminal. It blew my mind, because it's like people are like, well, if you go to college, you do this, then thirst. Like, no, the education system is designed to work. There's no getting out of the slavery and the subjugation. There's no getting out of it. It's just been tooled to make you feel good about it, because you're better than somebody else. Oh, you only graduated from high school. I graduated from college. I'm better than you. Oh, well, I got a bachelor's degree. I got a master's. You only got a bachelor's. I'm better than you. Oh, I got a PhD. You only got a master's. I'm better than you. Oh, I went to med school, dental school, law school. I'm better than you. Oh, I am a senior person here. I'm better than you. Whole time you're not thinking about, I'm being forced into narcissism and learning absolutely nothing. I could just spew facts. This is, and it never, it It started to make sense when I started to look at why things never change in this country. They make amendments to shit to justify, but it's like, no, this is nigga what we're gonna do. And now when you look at how the education system plays itself out, you're forced into a box. It's going to make you the box it wants you to make, wants to make you. So now when I talk about the seven intelligences and I say, okay, they force motherfuckers to be completely logical, right? They force motherfuckers into being completely logical, which is crazy. How do you walk into a world where you're completely logical and there's actually absolutely no logic in the education system? You're not being taught to use logic. You're talking to sound logical. The education system doesn't teach you how to be logical. Be logical teaches you how to sound logical. So you learn certain words, you learn certain things, and you at certain milestones. Now it ties into a little bit of statistics. But before we dive into that part, let me say this. When we look at when we tie it into the bank, right? JP Chase Morgan, right? He made a very powerful sentiment, and I'll never forget it. And I remember I was talking to a shorty one time, and she, I told her about it and shit, and what was said, and we was into astrology. And her thing was like, yep, because that's how we use astrology to this. And for some reason, it was deeper than just being able to use astrology to calculate the stars, set yourself up. But it was, why did he feel the need to utter that? Billionaires use astrology. And it never hit me because, I'm thinking he used astrology to, set up the bank in or to set the things up. No, he used astrology on a whole different level, which makes sense why now when we tie it into the American Medical Association and things like that and prisons and all of this shit, it's like, why is it a rule that when a motherfucker is born, their time of birth is recorded, the location, everything is reported? Because now I can run a natal chart. When I can run a natal chart, and I can not even a natal, just not even just a natal chart, but a human design as well. But when I can run a natal chart and know exactly what a person, an entity who's born is going to do, but then I can take it to a next level and know what a generation is going to do. Then I can take it to another level and know what a culture is going to do based off of the season, the cycle of time. I can control the world. I can control every decision that is in play, in motion. Now, with Chase Morgan being a bank, running the bank, holding people's money, and then when I think about trading and I think about the cycles of trading damn near run towards the celestial bodies. I know because I'm tapped into that shit and I use it, a little bit in the stars. Certain shit, I know Iwi. I can't teach y'all how to use the stars in that shit because I can't teach y'all how I use the stars, the numbers, and certain things when I'm trading. Um, for certain cycles and certain motions because you have to learn the stars and see how it applies. I can't teach you that too. You feel me? So when I have the movements of this is gonna work because of this, a lot of it is more esoteric too. You feel me? And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that I'm gonna be 100% because I got the stars, because you still can't factor in when a larger player who's larger than the one you trading on or dealing with is gonna kick in at that will, and that could change directions. But for the most part, as long as you are strategic and understanding it, it's because you're alignment with the stars, and it's based off the emotion. Most likely, more than likely, most often, not more than likely, but most often it's off the lunar cycle. You feel what I'm saying? It's off the lunar cycle, and every 28 days. This is why in EWE, if you're in it, you know why when we look at the investing side, we look at it by the month for the monthly. Like, what is going to happen for the month because it bases it off the cycle of the moon, 28 days. All right, so when JP Morgan Chase said billionaires use astrology, millionaires use accountants. And it's like, what are you meaning by that? So and now I get it. Because now it goes into, damn, you did the same shit for the education system. Why billionaires use astrology? Because now I know how all of these people can function individually. But now what I'm gonna do is create one individual motherfucker. I'm gonna create one individual motherfucker. I might create lanes of motherfuckers, but I'm gonna create one individual motherfucker that isn't higher or lower, faster or slower than anybody. Everybody's on the same page. Devastating to know because now this is why you have K through 12 and you go through at the same age pockets, right? And the reason why I'm saying it's devastating to know because it's like when you look at development, when you look at human development, right? Babies sit up at a certain time. This is one of the things that always got me because I was like, there's no way we should be educated all the same way. There's no way we should be educated all the same way. But then when we look at how the education system plays out, it's like from birth up until 5. Some people walk faster, some people talk quicker, some people some people are already at an exponential curve. You feel me? They sit up, they recognize a lot faster than the others. You feel what I'm saying? But somehow we all are leveled out at the same level. So now imagine being the fastest one, and then now you're atrophied. So now when I tell people we're mentally retarded now, they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, just imagine that. From birth up until 5 years old, you were faster than your counterparts in your development. Now everybody's development is the same. That means you level the playing field for the slow people. So when we look at the first participation trophy, low key was the education system. Because if we actually kept things to the natural devices and allowed people to actually think rather than be trained, things would change. So now when we look at, oh, I'm educated because I got good grades or whatever the case may be. No, you're well trained and your grades were reflective of that because you were never supposed to think. So now, when you know the very motherfucker who uttered the words, I do not want a nation of thinkers, I need a nation of workers, then goes and puts the money up to create the education system as we know it and the core curriculum for K through 12. You really think you thinking? Now, when I tell people they think they're thinking, they're really just recalling information. They just spew up. They give us a whole bunch of facts, no antithesis, because you can't think, so you can't challenge anything. You just accept it. And if you don't listen, you get in trouble. When you speak out of turn, you get in trouble. They train you to be successful workers. And they're like, why are we in school for 8 hours? You don't need to be in school for no 8 hours. So it makes it easy for you to transition into a job. You go and sitting at a desk for 8 hours as a kid. You're not gonna think twice about sitting in a cubicle. When they start taking the colors out of the classroom from like kindergarten, I think it's about second grade. That's when it starts getting a little bit more drab, and now it turns into a plain white wall. That's from third grade on when they start the test scoring. This is all for smooth transitions. This is all just for smooth fucking transitions to just hand the baton at the right time. But now, because we're keeping everybody in the same grade level at the same age, we want the same motherfucker. This is how I was saying. AI is patterned off of the people. Now it's really starting to make sense. It's wild how I can utter some words and then the next thing that needs to be spoken on will come. It just has to be marinated on. But when we look at that and we say, wow, they pretty much created a whole template until yes, because we're a nation of workers. Now, education system now goes into another level because it's like now we can create multiple jobs. Like if think about what the economy is built. Oh, we added new jobs to the economy. We had everybody's primary function is to get a job. Everybody since career day, since our primary focus has been to get a job. This is why I was always wondering, how come nobody encourages entrepreneurship? I've never seen on career day an entrepreneur come in this motherfucker and say, yeah, I work for myself. No, I got a good job and now I work for somebody. I got to listen to somebody. Somebody's going to tell me what to do. And now there's going to be degrees of separation. We're going to create that. The education system is the forerunner for the first pyramid scheme. It blows my mind how motherfuckers don't realize they're caught in the middle of the biggest pyramid scheme ever. Not only that, now you can create a system that makes the people argue with each other and not the system that's at play. The system is so wired, all I have to do is add bodies to it, which comes from who? The people. I just got to make them procreate. I got to do nothing but create a media system that advocates nothing but sex. Sex sells. Sex this, sex this. I'm going to program them. They're going to have kids out of there. They're going to have kids that they can't take care of. Now, I'm going to expand the education system and now allow women to start being educated too, right? And not only that, now they can get jobs so we can tax they stupid asses because they don't want to stay home. You feel me? They're every woman. It's all in them. They want to be like men because they're listening to the wrong motherfuckers. You got to think about why y'all got into the feminist movement in the first fucking place. The feminist movement never started for women equality. It was for a woman's equality to hold the whip of the master. Let's look at it from the real perspective. Feminism began because white women wanted to hold the whip too. They weren't oppressed. They weren't like, like, come on, bro. Like, your man is running the world. How are you a victim? Unless you want to be the one to run the world. And now when we look at the roles, we look at where we are today, what do we have? We have women wanting to be men. And they played on it so bad that they said, as men, we're still better than you, and we're gonna become men, we're gonna become women and still be better than you and show you. Sit your motherfucking asses down. You feel what I'm saying? Sit your motherfucking asses down. But no, we all women have collectively bought into the beef of one woman beefing with her man because she couldn't hold the whip. It had nothing to do with equality. Well, no, it had everything to do with equality for her. She wanted to be able to be an oppressor too. And we skipped that. But all of that shit was part of the programming and the indoctrination, because this is why now, when we look at this, is why the men in this education system, the men became the active people who became the cops and the doctors, the lawyers, and all of this other shit. Women started dabbling in it too, but for the most part, the women were the teachers. The women were the teachers. So now when I tell you this system, it removes now. Mm, I'm cold, bro. I'm cold, bro. So when we understand masculinity, and I always tell y'all, masculinity is gone. The ability to analyze and deconstruct the world is gone. And then when you know the very motherfucker who started the education system specifically said, I want a nation of workers, not thinkers. We know that masculinity is tied to your thoughts just as femininity is tied to your emotions. But with masculinity being tied to your thoughts, and you want to create a nation of workers and not thinkers, I just need people to act, not do, not think about anything, masculinity gets removed. So now, in order to guarantee that the masculine essence is moved, now I'm going to have a feminine essence teach you. I told y'all this was a science. This is a system and it works. I just couldn't always figure out the exact peak. I can always see it, but I never figured out the start. Now I have the impetus to it. You feel me? Now they create this, and now you're getting taught by the Caucasian women, or you know what I'm saying, to promote that. That's why I always say the only thing more racist than the white man is the white womb he comes from. And this doesn't necessarily mean the actual mother who birthed him, but think about, they have to have their women in a certain reality. They're going to be the teachers. Men weren't teachers in the beginning. In the first foundings of the education system, the men weren't the teachers, the women were. So now when I tell women, they say, well, not women, but people say teachers need to get paid more. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because now when I create a nation of people who need to work and not think, and those who can't do, those who can't teach, and you become a teacher, you can't even think. You feel me? This is why I say I get upset when I see people who say C's get degrees, but you want to teach? You need to have an A. But even if you had an A, it doesn't matter. That just means you have a higher propensity to indoctrinate a motherfucker. I seen another quote. It was powerful as shit. I think it was that Jane Addams lady, the white. She was like, if you graduate from college or high school, whatever, and you're not inherently racist, you failed in school. And I was like, because the white woman, she said everybody listen, whatever the case may be. But it's like, white people can see certain shit that we can't see because they're inside of something that we're outside of. So as I'm listening to her say this shit, I'm like, damn, that makes hella fucking sense. Hella fucking sense, Jane. Because if we're looking at it from that perspective, and then now you go higher up in academia, you start hating black people. Now, I tell people, they're looking at me like I be tripping. I say, yeah, the higher up in academia you go, the more you're going to think like a white person, the more you're going to start disliking your own people. No, I'm not. I'm always doing it for you. No, this is why you have a problem with the hood. This is why the higher up you go, the more the shit that black people do, even if they came from the same place you come from, it starts to, quote unquote, make you look bad. They setting us back. They're embarrassing us. Because the education system is designed to program the mind into white supremacy, to be a factor to keep the white supremacy alive. That's why you learn history, American history, then you learn black history. Because this is the history we want y'all to be indoctrinated. This is the history we want y'all to know. We don't want y'all niggas to be free. The fuck? When they create the history, it's not for you to learn, it's for you to be programmed to see who the winner is at all times. I'm proud to be an American. So you start off school by I pledge allegiance to the flag. You pledge your allegiance. The last time motherfuckers pledged allegiance to some shit, it was Nazi Germany. Somehow, like we look at that whole shit and we like, yo, that's fucked up. But nigga, every fucking morning you pledged allegiance. Fuck singing the national anthem, my nigga. Fuck kneeling for that shit. That don't matter because you're still pledging allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And I get it. I don't say the pledge. You already pledged it. You were indoctrinated long. Like think about when you stopped saying the pledge. It was already it only takes 21 days to make a habit. We start the Pledge of Allegiance our first day of kindergarten. Put your right hand over your heart. That is a whole ritual. We get so wrapped up on spotting demonic shit and thinking that rituals and shit got to be so evil and demonic. And I'm going to talk about the word ritual in a second because it ties to this. We think about the word ritual being so evil and demonic that we don't realize that a ritual is a routine, a set routine designed to condition. That's it. You wake up, you put your right hand over your heart. Now we're already making you right-handed. When you go to court, you put your right hand over the Bible. Everything is going to base it off of the right hand. But why? Why is the point? Because the left side because your right hand is connected to the left side of your brain. The left side of your brain is the what side of your brain? The logical side of your brain. Left-handed triggers the right side of your brain. The right side of your brain is what? Your creative side. That is the thinking side. That is the experiential side of your brain. I don't need you to think. I need you just to be logic. I need you to accumulate information. So now I'm going to keep the right brain active. I'm going to force the right brain to remain active by giving you the usage of your right hand. Every day I'm going to teach you how to signify yourself and use your right hand. Being ambidextrous is not a matter of genetics. It's a matter of atrophy. Well, not atrophy, but I would say hypertrophy or just muscle use. It's memory. If you took the time to, because you got to think about it. Go back to your writings when you was a kid. When you first started writing, even writing with your left hand, you wrote the same way you write with if you're right-handed now. When you first started writing as a kid, your letters were just the same as they were with your left hand that they are now. I mean, if you wrote with your left hand now, it will be what your right hand was when it was a kid. Same shit. You know why? Because it took time to develop. But they don't want us to develop both of them. Some people defy the odds and say, I'm going to write with both hands. But in the time of when it started, everybody was right-handed because even if you were left-handed, you got popped. Because that's not right. They structured the desk to be right-handed desks. They create right-handed scissors. Everything is focused on your right hand. Because now the ritual now plays out for you to be right-handed so you can be left-brained. Right? Which now, like I said, ties into the word ritual because ritual comes from the word rites. Right, we know, as we know, rites are supposed to be, rituals and shit like that. They're supposed to be demonic. However, tying this into buying out the pharmaceutical side too, the American Medical Association and the American Cancer Society and all these different things. When you start to buy these things out, it's like, what are you really doing? What are you really doing with this? Because now when you look at the pharmacy is a powerful word because it derives from the word pharmakeia. And pharmakeia is Latin for sorcery. You don't say yes. All of the demonic shit that they teach you to see, you can't see the real demonic shit that's right in front of you. Rite Aid was the only one that was like, it's like, yo, we're aiding your ritual. We're aiding the ritual of the sorcery at its pharmacy. Words. That's why pharmacies are still standing now. They secured and solidified the pharmacy's jobs with this flus. And not like, think about your major pharmacies and when they came out. Walgreens came out in 1906. I forget the other two. I used to work at Walgreens. That's how I know when they came out. But Walgreens came out in 1906. The Spanish flu came out in 1918. They had time to get momentum. They had time to get momentum. They had time to get everybody momentum. They said, we're going to shut it down. So now medicine is all it is. We're going to use medicine. We're not going to use, and coincidentally, all of the medicines are white. I don't think people understand really the depths of the psychology of white supremacy and how it's really infused in you. You see it all the time. You see it all the time, and you don't realize that that's what you're seeing. You feel what I'm saying? Because it's wired into the education system. So now when it goes to third grade test scores, this is how. Because the third grade test scores are based off of the statistics. And the statistics they come from what? You feel me? Like, this is one thing they used to give me. I'm like, how in the fuck can we all be average? Like, the average person does this. How is there such thing as an average person when everybody's an individual? Unless you're creating the person you need. I'm creating a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. If you have a nation of thinkers, you have the individuals. But when you have a nation of workers, you don't have the individuals. You just have motherfuckers who need to compete with each other. Because the individual can collaborate because they respect their own individual differences. But they can't do that in the education system because you're not designed to think. You just got to work. You got to fucking work. So I'm not going to give you anything that's going to make you think. I'm not going to give you anything that's going to make you, learn. Just obey me. Be obedient. The way in which we're rewarded for graduating schools and shit is the same way dogs are taken through obedience school, given a treat. Oh, that's a smart dog. Because it can listen. Because you said sit and it sat down. Good dog. You so smart. Go get the newspaper. Oh, you feel me? It's the same shit. This is why I be wondering how it used to piss me off. I talk about it, and now I have a different viewpoint on it. When people used to say, the teacher changed the study guide. And they be like, how did you get? And I would be confused in the motherfucker because I knew the material. Like, the fuck you mean? How did I get it now? You weren't supposed to learn it. That's why you needed the study guide that way. I'm like, I can't even be mad about it because you're average. You're the mother. Like, that's why it's like, yo, we need people with a C average people. Nigga, you not no threat. A average people are scary because at one point, were you good at being trained, or are you gonna be the anarchist that breaks out of this shit? You feel me? A lot of successful rappers that dropped out of school, you feel me? Like, we look at Jay-Z, 50 Cent, Lil Wayne, and you know what I'm saying? A couple of they dropped out, and it's like, but how did you feel me? 50 Cent always say, he said, yo, I'm good at business because I do business. He said the person who's teaching you how to do business can't do it because he wouldn't actually logically have the time to teach you. Nigga, that makes sense. Now, if we look at the course creation, a lot of people take information and pass it back out. I have people who, when it's come to certain, they be like, how do you talk with such conviction? Because I know what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to show how well I'm trained at what I'm talking about. That's all the education system is. You get a degree, you get a grade, and say, hey, how trained are you to disseminate this information? So now, like I said, when I go to med school and then I see the bodies and they're all Caucasian bodies, it makes sense now. When you're educating to keep them alive, not us. That's treason, if you ask me. But again, you're not learning anything. You're getting the information. Get it now, get it now. I'm gonna traumatize this information into you so you can memorize it. Because it happens so fast. You don't sit with it. You don't sit with it. When you could sit with it and learn it better, like I did, you feel me? All I had to do was sit a little bit, but we're not taught to let it sit. So I was saying all of that because I was mentioning the point of statistics and how, school to prison pipeline and how they creating it. Like, people love to utter statistics. Well, the statistics say 70% of this or 20% of that. It's like, statistics. Let me break this down. I was going to do a whole episode on it, but I don't need a whole episode for what this next part is. Statistics are how you determine the efficacy of a system. Systems are cycles of cycles. Okay. A cycle develops as at least a third occurrence. And then, so to have a cycle, something that is cyclically going to work 3 times, it has it doing it again. Now you're on a multiple when you create a system, right? But the statistics that we get are to give you a quantitation of the efficacy of a system. So when you hear things like, and this came to me because I was watching this little clip and shit, and it was talking about 70% of men raised of a single mother go to prison. I'm like, damn. So it's like on paper, when you look at that, you feel me? In the audience, the motherfuckers is, yeah, because it's the women sending the men to prison. And then, on the other side, the women are like, all right, men, where the men at? Because they shouldn't be leaving these women single. So it's like, y'all are missing the whole fucking point, because they teach you to focus on the statistics. You're not able to see the whole reasoning for the statistics to get the piece of the whole. Like, statistics tell you a part of a whole, right? And because we focus so much on a part of the whole, we don't look at the whole. You feel me? So by default, if 70% of men raised of a single mother go to prison, that means 30% won't, right? And I get it. On that side, it's like, damn, we only have a 3 out of 10 chance of not going to jail or whatever the case may be if we raised by a single mother. And it's like, well, if the fathers were there, it'll change everything. It won't, because there's a system that is designed to send people 100%. Is designed to send 100% of the people who are raised by single mothers to prison. That's the intention. The intention of the statistic, the whole 100%, is to send all these motherfuckers raised of single mothers to prison. But out of those that we intend, all 100% that we tend, we only get 70%. That's a very effective system. That is a very effective system. So it makes sense why I would keep the father out of the home. I would incentivize a mother to not allow a father in the home, so I can guarantee, so there's a 70% chance I can create a criminal. And if I can create a criminal, guess what I can create? A prison. And if I can create a prison, I can create free labor. Slavery, 13th Amendment. And if I can create that free labor, I can continue to get rich without anybody suspecting that it's me creating a system that makes this shit work. So when I tell motherfuckers, like, you feel me? Now, because now it gets to a point where, when in this competitive world, they taught us to become competitive and not think, right? That's what the education system is. So in this competitive world, if somebody fails at something, if you see somebody fail at something, just because it's competitive, you would try to outdo them, especially if they're in close proximity to you. So where we once had a generation, like, we're starting to break it, where we once had a generation of women who were single mothers because of the father leaving, being what he was going to be. Then you have a generation who just wanted to have a baby and didn't give a fuck about the father, because they're strong, independent women who don't need no man. So now we're at 2 generations so far, right? And then you have that 3rd generation of women who the cycle is there now. It's just, I don't even anticipate. Listen to the conversation. They don't even anticipate having a father in the home. They prepare themselves mentally to be a single mother. So when you prepare yourself mentally for something, you're going to go into it. Mental preparation is the way in which you walk into manifestations, whether you want them to or not. So when you mentally prepare yourself to be a single mother, guess what? You're going to be a single mother, but you're also going to be a contributor to the statistic that we need 100% of criminals in this world. We need 100%. The only way, the highest way in which we can guarantee that we can create a criminal is to raise them by a single mother. Because what she's going to do is she's going to have to emasculate him to maintain dominance. Now, when you emasculate a man, you take away his ability to analyze and deconstruct his world. Check and checkmate. That's a criminal. If he can't analyze and deconstruct his world, he cannot make sound decisions. When he cannot make sound decisions, he does what he needs to do whatever. And he doesn't think. He just acts. That's a criminal. It's criminalistic behavior. YOLO. Now, I'm gonna fuel his music. I'm gonna get to the music side too, but we're just sticking on education right now. Now, these are all from the statistics. Like, when you take statistics, it's going to tell you 70% of this. So, like, when I used to look at it, like, when me and my homies, they say 1 in 3 black men are going to go to jail. No. 1 in 3 black men won't go to jail in their lifetime. So that means 2 in 3 will. So I was like, wow. Then I looked at me and my 2 closest homies. We all went to jail. Now, I didn't stay. I didn't actually do time, but we all went to jail. And it's like, huh. That was 100%. That was 100%. I said, wow. So the statistics reveal what the intention was. Oh, nigga, the goal was to get all y'all in this motherfucker. We'll settle for 2 out of 3. We'll settle for 2 out of 3. We'll settle for 2 out of 3. Now, look at these numbers, bro. It's damn near, this is like a confirmation when you really think about it. If 70% of the men, 70% of men raised by a single mother are likely to go to jail, 2 out of 3 black males are going, 2 out of 3 is 67%, 66.6% basically, but 67% is 2 out of 3. That is 3% off from the 70% of a single mother. If I can get black mothers to be single, I can guarantee, I can almost, like, I can almost make it 100% possibility that I can get at least one of their children, one of their sons to come to prison. Think about the average family. If the average family, let's say 2 kids, I'm taking one of them. I'm taking one to prison. I don't think we understand the depths of that shit. So now, when we add integration into this motherfucker, oh yeah, sing is getting like that. When you add integration to this motherfucker, and Martin is starting to feel like, I integrated my people into a burning house. This is why when people say you gotta, sir, you people that we buy into this respect the dead shit, because a lot of times we don't think. We just take on what everybody else tells us to do. But sometimes you can't respect the dead when they did some disrespectful shit to the living. Regardless of whether his intention was there, even though he acknowledged it and said, I feel like I'm integrating my people into a burning house. You are. You know why? Because now you solidified the reality that they needed to fill the prisons. The 13th Amendment solidified slavery. But now how can I guarantee that? I'm going to tell these women they don't need no man. And in addition to that, I'm going to continue to perpetuate it along the lines of having the mother-son relationship or the father-daughter relationship. Specifically the mother-son. They call it the baby boy complex. Why are we stuck in a baby boy complex that we can't get out of? Because this is some shit that we've been in since slavery. And now it's a cycle, so we think that this is how men are supposed to be. No, when a man and a woman are in a relationship that is a mother-son dynamic, the man can easily walk away after he has kids. He's going to easily walk away after he wants kids because he's not a man. You dig what I'm saying? He's not really a man. And we know that because we're going to make sure he stays a boy forever. We're going to continue to make sure he stays a boy forever. We're going to treat him like a boy forever. We're going to make him do boyish shit. He's going to walk away from his kids. That increases the chances that once he walks out, we got his kids. My mother had 3 kids. You feel me? 2 sons and a daughter. Both of her sons were arrested. She was a single mother. I don't think it can get any more calculated than that. Let's say my sister was an actual son. Then 2 out of the 3 literally went to jail. You dig what I'm saying? The statistics wrote themselves. So when I look at what a statistic is, it's not a point of stereotyping or paying attention to something and say this. No, you need to look at the whole and say, oh, so your intention was to create this reality, but out of this reality, it ain't no difference in science. This is your data and your calculations, what you record. You feel me? My attempt is to get 100% efficacy in this. You feel me? Like when we had experiments in organic chemistry where you had to separate like liquids from solids or whatever the case may be, right? And then you'll see what the purity of the liquid is. Sometimes the purity is like 98% or whatever the case may be. That means that out of this experiment, I was only able to maintain 98% of this. 2% I got lost because something happened within the experiment, whatever. But when I know, and it's because it's how it relates to the whole. So now when it relates to the whole, what is the intention of the whole? Oh, my intention is to send y'all motherfuckers to prison. There's not an if and a maybe about it. I'm going to send y'all to prison. Now we fast forward to the cocaine. Like all of the time has been used to kill us. People don't understand. It's not even used to kill us per se, but to enslave us. They wanted us enslaved forever, right? Now it's backfiring because in order for them to float, they have to enslave their own people. But they enslave their own people too to make it seem as now. Don't get me wrong. This is not no unity. We all one type shit. No, the lines are still clearly distinct. I'm just letting y'all know what the game is. I know what side I'm on, and I know what side I gotta stay on. Just because I got a different understanding of motherfuckers not being able to think doesn't mean that lines ain't still crossed, because the way in which you put into the system is not the same way that me and my people are put into the system. You're put into the system to make the same. Like, it's like people be like, why is racism still a thing? Why are y'all still asking, nigga? Systemic racism. All you keep hearing is get into the markets. But do you trade or do you invest? Should you do stocks, Forex, crypto, or NFTs? My personal answer is not a single one if you don't know how to read a chart. Without knowing how to read a chart, you end up giving all your money to those who do. Do you know what a candle is? Do you know the pocket of activity? Do you know the difference between market direction and market control? If you answer no at least once, you might want to learn how to read a chart first. Learning how to read a chart will let you know if you should trade or invest, and if you should do stocks, Forex, crypto, and or NFTs. It will also let you know if this is even for you or not. So visit IamJustSeen.com to learn how to read charts with my Mastering the Market course, ebooks, and webinars today. The world is changing. The question is, will you adapt with it? This isn't just prejudice. This is systemic racism. Systemic. Keyword being systemic. System. A cycle of a cycle. This system fucking works. Systemic racism works. And it's going to continue working as long as you continue to put the bodies in it. That's it. But that ties in. Because in addition to the systemic racism that we actually have to face, we are now assimilated into, imagine being assimilated into the very education system that was systemically designed to destroy you. This is a part of the burning house. What we was learning from the same curriculums before school integrations and shit, like, yeah, they had better books, they had better schools, they had better resources and all of the other shit because they were indoctrinated a different way. You were indoctrinated in such a way to make you hate yourself. They were indoctrinated in such a way to make them love themselves, where they can call it patriotic. The biggest case in point for that shit is Teddy and Franklin. Teddy and Franklin. I don't think a lot of people understood that dynamic. That was a part of the show that I don't think people, because a part of the culture, you're so focused on the black and the brown, you don't focus on the white, that you're not seeing that Teddy was just the same patriotism that Teddy had was the same energy that Franklin had, just from a negative perspective. They even had a conversation where he asked Franklin, why are you paranoid? And Franklin said, I'm a black man in America. God damn it, of course I'm paranoid. Because this is how the system is supposed to be worked. And in the long run, he was educated in the sense of entitlement to feel like he can take this man's money because it wasn't his. Franklin couldn't fathom, like, why would you take my money if I was doing everything you needed me to do? Take away crack, take away the crack epidemic, take away, you know what I'm saying, the drugs and everything, and look at solely on the principle. Tell me the education system doesn't do that. You're going to go get a good job. Now, the job that you're going to get, there's one person that is indoctrinated one way to give you the job, and there's a way in which you're indoctrinated to have the job. You get fired, you can't figure out why. Budget cuts, all of this happen. You can just get let go. And who's the one doing it? So when I have a different, I used to hate hearing them say this shit. I now have a different appreciation for it. I still don't like co-sign it because I feel like it's an excuse still, but it's a valid reason now. When I hear my pop say, yeah, the white man won't let me have anything. Y'all were saying some shit that I don't think I understood properly when I like, the white man won't. You're right, he won't. His education system isn't designed for you to have anything. I always wonder why, you know, the motherfuckers that dropped out of school, oh, nah, you stupid. Nah, it's not that you ain't stupid. You're not being indoctrinated. You couldn't be indoctrinated. And the indoctrination wouldn't work on you so much that you quit early. Some people don't realize that they're conflicting with the indoctrination, but they keep pushing through. School shouldn't be hard. The education system shouldn't make you want to commit suicide when it's all said and done, but it do because now we have to tie into other things. When he bought the pharmaceutical company, the game changed. I don't need thinkers, I need workers. So now when I have workers, I'm putting you motherfuckers on the assembly line. So now he bought that out in like the early 1900s. By 1910, I think he bought the American Medical Association and shit like that. By 1913, he had the American Cancer Society. By 1916, that's when the food guide pyramid came out. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So now remember when I mentioned that, I was like, the food guide pyramid, is it really a guide? It has to guide you into something. They tell you the truth. They never lie to you. They just make sure you don't understand what you're hearing. Tying it back to the listening episode. They make sure you can hear it, but they make sure you cannot listen to it. You hear it all day long, but you're not listening because you can't understand what you're hearing, what's being told to you. So when they say, oh yeah, this is the food guide pyramid, this is the food that's going to make sure that medical system runs. We're going to make your body respond this way. Now, I'm not tying it back to the statistics, like I said, the average person is created. The average person is the even keel person who, this is what the average person is. You're the person who you have been educated in a way in which you're not swayed too far to the left, too far to the right. You're an average student. You get B's and C's mainly, or whatever the case may be. You're people pleasing, not people pleasing. You're good socialite. You can be around certain people. You can do certain things. You're not an extremist. You feel me? It's little things like that that makes you the average person. Above average people, and this is how they make it seem like we're special. Oh, you're above average person. That's not a good thing. The above average people, oh, we're not gonna have any problems out of them on a job. If you were that high scholar, top student and shit, you are a top motherfucker on a job, and you're the last person that they'd be willing to fire. But that's not necessarily a good thing, considering what we're talking about now, relatively to what we're talking about now. I'm not saying that you having a job is bad or whatever the case may be, but I'm saying high, above average people, the highest percentile people. This, you always used to hear me say, over time when they started coming out with black kids and showing their IQs and how the IQs are the highest among such and such, and it's like, I think we need to start investigating that. I don't think that's a good thing. When the education system, when the education system is literally built off not teaching you, but is not making you think, but to make you a worker, what do you think an IQ is? How valid can you really say an IQ is? Because all of this shit follows afterwards. I think the IQ test, it's the intelligent quotient test, was started by a dude from Switzerland. Well, after this education system was already found out. I want to say it was like maybe the mid 1900s when he started this shit, but he created the IQ test, and the IQ test is culturally based and it's biased. But either way, it's based off of how well you're educated. And we wonder why we have narcissists today. Whole bunch of educated motherfuckers that ain't smart. No, they're smart as fuck, but a whole bunch of educated motherfuckers that ain't intelligent. They can't think. So when we understand what intelligence is the ability to process, understand, and use information. That's thinking. When this nigga said, I do not want a nation, no, I don't want a job. I do not want a nation of thinkers. I need a nation of workers. There is no intelligence in this shit. So now everything is it's an illusion. So you get trained as if you're an animal. Good dog. Good girl. You got A's, you got this, you got that, and you got this. And as the time goes, you become like Pavlov's dogs. You respond to the reward of the A. Right? So now, like I said, you got above average people, below average people. They quantified you by grade. A's and B, were A, B student, you were good. B, C student, all right. C, D student, you need to pick up. D, F student, you're a bad person. Every DF student that I've ever seen was actually some of the smartest motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. They thought outside of the box, but I'm like, why the fuck don't y'all say shit? Because they felt like they were stupid based off C's and D's. Every A and B student, myself included, speak as if so matter of factly as if you know it'd be wrong as shit. just sound good articulating. But ain't nobody learning shit. But now the motherfucker who's actually able to think can't learn in this system. Now I get it. Well, Scene, how'd you function? Because I didn't think. The good part about me was because of the way my mind worked, I didn't have to think in school. So it never really affected. The shit was easy. So I was like, why is this shit so easy? Because it's not. It's a and it's literally you're learning how to input and out how to input functions to get an output. So for me, it was never a point or anything that I actually had to think about doing. I didn't start thinking until I went to med school. And that's when I was like, damn, I ain't been thinking. This shit hard. This shit hard. You feel what I'm saying? But again, because I had always gotten A's and B's and shit, I thought that you create the narcissist. Like me be thinking like, so now when you get, now this is right here is why it's going to be how they played this world out. So now fast forward, it took some years to plan because now you get eugenics with all of that other shit. Now it's like, how can we secure this shit? We got to take the men out of the home. You feel me? First, we're going to take them out of the home with the crack. You feel me? First, make them all junkies. Those who don't become junkies will likely sell drugs. You feel me? Like everything has a hole to it. Y'all, we don't look at like when we look at the whole like Franken selling drugs and then people taking it, that's the thing. Either you're gonna be a dealer or you're gonna be a user. But this crack we're gonna make the crack affect all of y'all in our benefit. You feel what I'm saying? We're gonna have an overseer of the shit, Teddy. We're gonna, you know what I mean? Like, we're gonna let somebody watch y'all while to try to contain it. But yeah, we're gonna see how bad this affects you. Okay. So the person that we now use that can, use one side of it, gotta be out of the home. You're gonna like being out of the home was not hard. Like every one of our men who were able to be thinkers, who had either you died or you lost your mind. And you were never able to, develop and like, develop with your kids. So now it's like we can create these criminals. We can create these criminals because it's like we know 100% of the time these are the results, or these are gonna be the results for us, right? So when I now create the world where, all right, they got unity, fuck that. We're gonna make them separate by position. You feel what I'm saying? Y'all don't see how like you know how they do the future is female and everything the case may be. They pander to black women for a reason for this, because they know that the black women are the most educated right now. And you be wondering why these educated black women, for example, the lady who got nominated or whatever, she's married to a white man, but the lady who got appointed by Biden or whatever the case may be, and they asked her what a woman was, she said, I can't answer that question. She's educated. She's well educated. She can't answer that question. Because this job that I gave you, this position that I allowed you to have, you can't jeopardize that. So you can't say anything that requires a thought. You can only express the indoctrination I need you to have. So now, how do you change the world in this regard? Because now, when you have this when we reach these levels of education, what happens? This is why I mentioned that her husband was white, because the same token happens with black men who get to that level. They get white women. Why? Because the supremacy works. The more educated, if you do not go through the education system successfully, you failed. If you do not become racist and support white supremacy, you failed. And it's deeper than just wanting to have black kids or not. It's wanting to have black kids with a black mind. You feel me? There's people who made it out of the hood, and then you have the we call them the silver spoon black kids. I seen this video. He was one of the silver spoon black kids, and he was like, "Why do black people act like?" He said, "I got this card note that you can't afford. I got a good job straight out of this that you can't afford." Do you see what I mean? I know y'all seen that video. He's saying that he wants to be accepted by the hood, but he's shitting on the hood. Who that sound like? Who that sound like? I grew up around black people. I should be able to say the N word. You feel me? I'm black, so I should, by default, I should be able to come into that culture that I look down on. But y'all don't want me here? I'm better than y'all. My credit score is better than y'all. I got a car note that you can't afford. I got this. I got a good job. I got this and that there. Better than y'all. Education system worked. That shit worked well. If you don't go higher up in academia and you don't start having a deeper disdain for black people, it failed. This is what I be telling motherfuckers. Like, they be thinking, oh, I'm gonna go into this education because you can't change from the outside. You can't change the inside either. This is a system, my nigga. When you start fucking up the system, they kick you out. You think you're gonna disrupt some shit and change it. No, you're gonna die. Literally. I'm not trying to be funny or like, they're gonna kill you. Are at the point where you can actually break the system, they'll kill you. But when you are a threat and they'll just destroy your livelihood. You can't eat. This is why they have accreditations and things like that. We're gonna make sure, like, when people, like, for example, the reason why Dr. Sebi was able to go out the way that he did, and how people are slandering his name now, saying Dr. Sebi was fake when he went to the court systems or whatever the case may be. He was saying this and that he ain't never had no proof or whatever, blah, blah, blah. He didn't have any proof that the education system could validate. When you listen to his story, they were like, yo, you can't cure cancer. He's like, you can't. He's like, you're right, you can't. Like, he's speaking about two different systems, and these are educated people speaking to a man who's experienced. What they do to Dr. Sebi? A plant-based man who's healing people, who's curing the diseases that people had, dies of pneumonia. Really, really, nigga, really. You feel me? Because they did that to erase his legacy. Damn, how do you die of a sickness when you were supposed to be healing people? Dr. Sebi would have been able to die of old age. We already knew what it would have been, but he didn't. Right now, certain people got to learn to play the game differently. That's why I studied Dr. Sebi and I studied Dr. Africa. When I looked at Dr. Africa, he gave all of the game. Now, here's why Dr. Africa put the game in checkmate. And I was always, why don't they come for him? Because to come for him admits the system failed. The system is broken. Because he did get the degree in the shit, and he was still pro-black, and he pulled away from the shit. But he did get the degree in it and everything like that. If you say his information is false, you have to say your degrees are bullshit, which is why I tied it into the accreditation. That's how they control people. The education system is designed to control you with accreditations. Of course, the degrees too, but you can get a degree from a non-accredited school and it don't count. So when I left Drexel, it's because the program wasn't accredited. They told me it was. They played me. Like, they got me there and was like, oh, we're working on accreditation. Whoa, what? Working? So if I finish this, it ain't gonna count. It is not gonna count. Like this is not gonna count for me. Nobody understood why I just left, up and left. I had to. I'm not about to waste my time, and this shit is not accredited because now it ties into the full gamut of the system. They create the accreditations and the certifications and shit like that to keep you going. It says so it can say, like, are you still you? Are you still capable of doing what you're doing? You feel me? Are you still capable? Like, somehow, like, we live in this world that is like, if you're not actively staying in the, they think you don't know, or they think you're not tapped in. That's why I started learning. Y'all can't really think. Y'all can't really think. If we look at what people really think about, you'll know why anxiety and depression are. Anxiety and depression and a lot of the ADD, all of the mental health issues are triggered because we think. And because of the education system, it determines which direction you think. And when you actually start thinking about the things you like, when you take off the mask and you get out of autopilot and you start to think about the things of your day that are going, like, you feel me? Somebody can die and you have to go back to work. Like, no, you only get like 2 days of bereavement or whatever the case may be. Get your ass back to work. Because I need a nation of workers, not thinkers. You feel me? So now when you do think, I'm going to say you have something wrong with you. When I started to realize that psychology and this shit was bullshit was when I looked and I found out about drapetomania. And I was like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me it's a disease to want to run away from oppression? You can't be serious. Who made this shit up? But then I think about it. They create the outcome. So they justify what it is. So when we look at ADHD, when we look at all these prevalences, half of this shit is just because we are in a half of this shit is because our bodies and our minds are actually thinking where we're not supposed to. You wonder why you get the drugs and shit diagnosed so early? Because we need to create an average motherfucker. Because all of it is based off statistics. The average person is what would you call average? What statistical number would be average? You feel me? Now, when you look at the different averages, the grade point averages, like, yo, this is where you fall. This is where you fall. This is where you fall amongst the people, right? So our system creates this amount of A people, this amount of B people, this amount of C people, this amount of D people, right? Just this education system alone, right? And we're not going to teach them anything. We're going to see if they have rote memorization, make you remember the shit. But we're going to make you pledge allegiance to the greats. You feel me? Teach you about Mount Rushmore. We're going to teach you about the people that run the world right now. We're going to teach you all, like, you think you're learning some shit when you're just passing tests. Passing tests so you can go get a good job. And now, once you graduate, you got to go to college. Oh, ain't no jobs hiring. I'm going to go back to school. Still ain't no jobs hiring. I'm going back to school. Wow. This shit it's a concert at this point. This is a symphony. This is a symphony because now, like I said, it works in the capacity of it's a system. It's not going to break. They just need to input the bodies. So now when people laugh, oh, you don't know the difference between there, and there. Do they even give a fuck that you know the difference between there, and there? No. They created the world where they don't want people to think. So now, going even deeper, this is why capitalism boomed. Because now, in creating the education, now we created the convenience for you. The food god pyramid, then we started creating the fast foods. You feel me? We stopped teaching how to farm and how to do agriculture. We're going to do everything for you. So much so that motherfuckers don't give a fuck about the difference between there, and there because of autocorrect. I don't care if I can't spell, bitch, this can spell for me. Okay, it can spell the words right, but can it use the words correctly? No, that's why y'all be saying you're welcome instead of you are welcome. And it's not because you don't know that it's your versus your. It's because when you started typing, you just used the autocorrect in it because it went straight to your and went welcome. Now it's predictive texting. Now you're going to say you're welcome every time, even though it's your welcome. It's crazy, but it's convenience and the laziness. The convenience is based off of the laziness and the ignorance of the people. That is the best way in which I can create a reality. I can create a culture and a society that I can control. Make them lazy and ignorant and make them lazy and ignorant, but make them believe they're productive and smart. Use a cold motherfucker, you can do some shit like that. To the world, to the whole country. And not even the whole country, but then now you created a central banks and now you make everybody else succumb to how you got to move. So that means in order for my banking system to work, I also need you to be educated this way so I can guarantee the job so I know who to pay out, how to pay them out. And it works. It works. This country is ran off pharmaceuticals and banks. That's it. That's it. These other jobs and all this other shit is decoration. It's fucking decoration because now they're going to take this money that they're making and move it into stock markets and move it into trade, international trade, and keep going back and forth. That's it. That's all they're doing. This is why the BRICS thing is so important. But this is why BRICS will fail. Nobody wants to talk about why BRICS will fail and why. Even though United States dollar is not backed by anything, it is still the strongest currency in the world. Now, when I tell y'all the dollar is backed by the health of the people, I knew it. I fucking knew it. I knew it. I always said it. I couldn't pinpoint why, but I felt that with him. Now I know the exact reason why it is backed by the mental health of the people because they control it. because they created the education system that says, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I need a nation of workers. At that point, your mental health, I control it. When I control the mental health of the people, now I can control the physical health because now I created the food god pyramid. I know what things are going to make you sick. I know what things like I created this whole system and it works perfectly. So people are like, US dollar ain't backed by nothing. It's going to fall. For bricks to work, it has to have a commodity as powerful as people. No, for bricks to work, it has to own a commodity and a resource as potent as ignorant, emotional people. Ignorant, lazy, and emotional people. I'm not saying this to be disrespectful, but these are the attributes that make a good American. Simple. You feel me? BRICS has to create a commodity and a resource that it can back its currency on that is as convenient, that runs off of convenience, the way that American human does. We're in a consumerist society of lazy people who don't know anything. There's no greater resource than that. Because now I can tell you whatever I need you to do. The stock market, as they say, as you know, it works like this. You create an emotional event. You create an event. The event creates the emotion makes the people respond. You move your money with it. Because they don't know. Stock market is the money changes from a 5%, 95% people win, 95% people lose in the market. Because 95% of the people don't know what they're doing, but there's always a fluid revolving door. I'm in here. I'm in here. You feel me? But you're not in there because you don't know shit about shit, right? That's what the United States dollar is backed on. Not gold, not silver, not oil, not wheat, not barley. People. Fucking people, my guy. So BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, y'all, they think they're going to do something. They're not. For one, they don't have enough resources, continual resources. There's no greater natural resource than a human. I can literally make you make however many babies I need you to make for me with the right programming. You feel me? And then on top of that, with the BRICS system, they have to create a new education system. The United States created the education curriculum for K through 12 that the whole world is on. You can't beat the United States, homie, because you don't know what the United States is winning with. This is why they're banding together. They don't understand the core. They would have to change the education curriculum across the world and find a resource to back their currency that's as strong as the human mind. There is no resource greater than the human mind. And the human mind that I control, what are you going to do with that? I control every dynamic of the human mind. I control when it's going to eat. Think about it. And this is another thing that took me down the rabbit hole. I don't know why didn't mention this in the beginning, but it ties into this. 3 square meals a day. That's not normal, nor is it natural. Again, I didn't realize this until I started studying, holistic eating and things of that nature, back in the day. But now this makes sense when I stumbled across this other information. Like 3 square meals a day was something that they started in Europe. Europeans started three meals a day in the 1700s. No, it's 17th century. So it was about the 1600s. Incidentally, when all of this bullshit kicked off. But anywho, 3 square meals a day. That's what they called it. 3 square meals a day. Where when every indigenous culture ate when they're hungry, they were hungry. More so, our bodies naturally work on a 12-hour rhythm. An 8-hour rhythm, to where we have 8 hours of assimilation, where our body is literally just digesting everything that we ate and putting nutrients where they go. 8 hours of the 8-hour time period of just release and excretion, and then we only have an 8-hour time pocket in which our bodies consume, which is wild because they call it intermittent fasting, but it's not intermittent fasting. It's following your normal biorhythm. Most people are not hungry until 12 o'clock. midday, the top of the sun. Now I get it. Well, I always get hungry. No, you're addicted. You're having an addiction. You're having a withdrawal. That's why it always feels empty after you eat because you're not actually eating because you're hungry. You're feeding an addiction. So they told you to feed the addiction morning, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, when really you only need 1 to 2 meals a day, supposedly. But now it's like, well, that's why Americans are obese. Yes, nigga, that's why Americans are obese. But that's also how the system works. These motherfuckers think they're supposed to eat this much. And now we're going to give them the food god pyramid that turns their body into the acidic side that creates nothing but disease. We're going to keep this money running. You feel me? Our we can go to the markets with certainty every day to know that the US dollar isn't going to drop because it's backed by these people. After the COVID shit, bro, after the vaccine happened, they got niggas forever. They got motherfuckers forever because it's like, if y'all got jabbed, yeah, we tested the 1918 Spanish flu theory again, and it worked twice. 100 years later, the same theory worked. Now we're in what? The roaring 20s. They're going to call it the roaring 20s when it's all said and done. You know why? Because they already had the roaring 20s. How did the 20s roar the first time? The education system was popping. They started indoctrinating the people. Now, they gave the people the good jobs. Now, when they started giving the industry jobs, now these parents that are creating these kids can tell them, hey, you got to be better than me. So now you're going to go off to college because I couldn't go. I'm going to pay for this. And you go to you create that system of college is the better way. College is a better reality. No, nigga, college is the indoctrination for me to make sure that you ain't going to rebel against this country. And it's going to make you feel good about your oppression. Imagine if you had to go work for 8 hours for free. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. But if I can give you a wage, I can give you a wage that you'll agree upon. Will you take it? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. You paying me how much a year? Okay. Okay. I ain't going nowhere. Now I need some more money. That's not in the budget. This is all right, cool. Now I got to go find another job. Now you have to move back and forth. But then you got to think about the generation of people that said, we're going to promise you a pension. When y'all really think about the roaring, like there's only 2 generations of people that got pensions. That's why this 3rd generation Social Security gone. Oh shit. Because it's literally only one generation had the ability to work 40, 50, 60 years to see if they're gonna get it. The second generation, they by the second generation, they already ran out of money. Think about it. If they bought the education system out in the early 1900s, so those parents would have had kids or whatever, blah, 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 those people that are working in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, those children started about let's say started schools 1920s or whatever the case may be. Finished 18 years, 1938, they go on the college, graduating high school. Let's say they go to college, 1938. 4 years to that, you're gonna get what, 1942? You feel me? Do your master's and your PhD. Let's add another 3 years to that. That's 1945. That's 1945 when these people start working. Add the 40 years that they're gonna work. You feel me? So they can lock in their pension. That's 1985 when these people retired and got their pension. They're the first fucking generation to get it in 1985. 1985 is the first generation to get a pension honored and paid out. This is 2023, and the generation can't retire because they already out of Social Security money. 40 years they out of Social Security money. It's not that they didn't think it through. They didn't give a fuck. The bait was worked. Because now everybody still thinks if I go to college, I'm going to do what these people failed at. Excuse me. I choked on some spit. I inhaled too fast. So now these people are hearing, they're being told, go to college, get a good education so you can retire. I'm going to give you 40 years so I can enjoy 11. That's not a fair trade. And if that's the case, let me get my 11 first. And then after I have my 11, let me do your 40. That's not going to work. So when I say 1985 was the first generation that started getting pensions and getting money by 19, and now they're out of money now, here's why that's crazy. Because in the moment, while this is overlap 1985, 1995, 2005, there's people encouraging their kids to go to college solely so they can graduate and be set when they retire. Motherfuckers right now, think about how this works. Motherfuckers right now say if you took the Standards and Poor's and you put $100 a month in your Standard and Poor every month until you're like until you retire, you have $1 million. Who's seen it? Show me a motherfucker who's done it and seen it. Because you got to think about it. When the stock market hit, the Standards and Poor's, S&Ps and shit, again, early 1900 shit. Early 1900 shit. Tying it back into the workers. We're going to still put the same shit. So there's only been since 1985, if there was one motherfucker who started it, put $100 in relatively, because I know we got to factor in inflation or whatever the case may be. But principally, if you put that $100 in from 1945 and you retired in 1985, you should have been a millionaire in 1985 to enjoy the last 11 years of your life. By 1985, only one motherfucker should have, like, that should have been the first group of motherfuckers to do that. How many motherfuckers do we know that have actually done that one by? No, nobody. So now when they tell you theoretically what could happen, who can validate it? Nobody. But I do know, but the bankers know that, oh, well, shit, whether they can validate that shit or not, give us your money. If all we got to do is give you $1 million in 40 years and you giving us 100 every month, give us your money. Because off that same amount of time, we're going to make more than $1 million. But all we're going to do is give you $1 million. But I'm not going to teach you that you can learn this game yourself and cut out all of that shit. And that $100 a month, now you can do what I do and you can make significantly more. So by the time that same time comes in the S&P 500, when you would have had $1 million, how much more would you have? But I don't need a nation of thinkers. I need a nation of workers. So while you at work, put your money in the stock market and hire a broker. He gonna call you up from time to time and let you know about this, blah, 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 blah. And even them, we're not even gonna teach all of the brokers the full game. Because if you know the full game, you have no desire to work for a brokerage firm. As a motherfucker who knows the game, I don't have a broker. I don't need a broker. They're like, yo, who do you talk to about your stock? Nobody, nigga. I know how to research them. I know how to do it myself. Like, it's different. It's legit different. But it's potent because if you check out how the way, if you check out the way in which the structural system happens, and we look at where we are right now, when you actually put it into perspective, like, the whole system failed. The very education system that they're convincing us works failed. So now, mind you, this is 1985. We brought up to 1985 when about the first pension would have been paid out or honored because you gave us your loyalty. So now you're looking at people who, yo, I worked at this job for 30, 40 years. Same pay. My pension's locked in. When one of my uncles was about to retire, he was retiring in, had to be about, well, it was before they moved down here. So I was still in college then. So I had to be about 21. So this is about 2011. You know, he's like, yeah, my pension's locked in, baby. He stayed consistent to a job that he hated, didn't love, and everything for his pension. And it worked for him. It worked for him. It worked for him. My uncle is literally only like, maybe, I know he's no more than 7 years older than my mom and my dad in that, like, in that area, right? So that generation of my mom's age and shit, like, literally only 7 years, they can't retire. Or they're having to work a little bit more. You see it now. You see it now. Your parents and people born in about the 60s, they're the ones talking about, oh, I got to find me a side job. I'm not going to be able to retire. I got to work a little bit longer. 7 years. That's only a 7-year difference. 7 years, right? So now, when you're being encouraged, go to school, get a good education. Why? Because this is the outcome. Nobody's ever seen the outcome for real. Me being the type of motherfucker that I am, I was able to see the outcome and I was able to say, oh, y'all, this was shenanigans. We better call it. Because what they're not telling us is that there's no statistics. This was the same shit as trust science that had never been done. Oh, yeah, you go to school, get a good education, get a job, and work for 40 years, you'll be set. You'll be set. You'll be set. And they never told you about inflation. They never told you about none of that shit. So all of that shit that they talking about, it didn't work. It didn't work. Me, myself, I was encouraged to go to school and shit like by somebody who was in the middle of it. You feel me? You had not crossed the line and finished it to say, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. You feel me? I saw it mid-race. It ain't gonna work. Everybody kept trying to convince me, yeah, but you're gonna be a doctor. You'll be making over six figures. You'll be able to pay. No, I won't. Even if I'm making over six figures, the debt inflates with us. Like I knew then that I would have to inflate with inflation. I never knew it would turn into a community, but I started to peep game then. You feel me? Which is one of the reasons why, if they listening and shit, my young bulls can attest to this when I was in Philly and shit. As soon as I started getting promoted and shit, I started putting them in different positions, started getting them raises and I was like, yo, when I leave this motherfucker, y'all need to either be assistant account managers, or supervisors at the highest rank, at the highest pay, because y'all like education system ain't gonna work. Like y'all ain't gonna get jobs when y'all graduate. You feel me? Luckily, they was all like 21 and under, so they were in the spaces where I was like, so I gave them the game that I didn't have. I didn't give him no false encouragement. Yeah, y'all better go. I'm like, yo, this shit don't work, bro. I'm a forensic biology major, right? I was one of the above average motherfuckers. I was the above average motherfucker. You feel me? Volunteer work. I worked with the Special Olympics. I've done the community service. I've done it all. I did everything they said do to be the great student to make yourself. And I couldn't land a forensic science job. I applied. So I said, fuck it. Let me go back. I got to go back to school. You feel me? I got to go back to school. So then I started selling cars. That's when I started selling cars because like Sally Mae said, we need our money in 6 months, nigga. Imagine that. You can't land a job, but you got to pay in 6 months. Now the job market is oversaturated. They're not telling you about none of this shit, none of these things, because everything is hypothetical, because there is no statistical data. There is no actual information to say we've done this before, so we can tell you what's going to happen. Because at 1985 was when the first cycle was completed. Nobody had ever seen it. And then, so imagine integration. Imagine people who's the first time family goers and shit like that. By 1985, you feel me? By 1985, my brother was born in 1983. By 1985, my mama was the only one in college. She has 10 siblings. My dad has 5, or it's 5 total of them or some shit like that. But either way, out of these 16 motherfuckers, 15 motherfuckers, my mama is the only one that went to college at the time. No, my mom's older sister, she went to college too. But my mom's older sister went to college, graduated, and worked at the same place for 40 years. Why? Because of the pension. Because of the guarantee that when I retire, I'm going to have this, right? Literally the first ones to do it. So my mom wasn't the first. She was the second. And then my aunt was the first. My older aunt was the first. Okay. I never talked to that aunt, so I never thought about it. But anywho, so by 1985, you feel what I'm saying? That's when matter of fact, no. So 83, my brother was born. 85, my sister was born. They were born. Like this hadn't, like, the first motherfuckers to get pensions were like, and you got, what was my culture doing at that time? We were segregated. We wasn't even allowed to work with these motherfuckers. Do we even have a possible pension in our minds? No, we don't. We don't have a savings. We don't have much, because we're dealing with Tulsa. We're dealing with a lot of shit being wiped out. So by 85, come on, bro. Come on, sis. We wasn't supposed to make this shit out. It wasn't supposed to work because it was supposed to create the workers. And now I don't give a fuck what happens with the workers when it's all said and done. I really don't care what happens to the workers when it's all said and done. I need this job, because what if you don't make it? Like, and when people starting work from 1945 to 85, how many people didn't make it to 85? You didn't even work your whole 40 years. My uncle, he worked in construction, so he told me about jobs where, yeah, some guys fell off the scaffolding. What you mean fell off? He fell off. We usually like 10, 20 stories up. So what y'all do? Keep working. It's like this man dies and y'all just keep working. We got to. The job got to get finished. We'll replace him. Wow. Mental health of the people is fucked up. This is why you have what we have today. And they niggas really think that this is one of the reasons why, like, since 2015, I've seen this. I say, y'all, we're not gonna be able to retire. Our generation can't retire. It didn't take long for me to see it. It didn't take long for me to see it. You just look at the time. This is why when they teach you history, they teach you so deep back. But then they make history seem like such a grandiose thing or so impactful and mystery. Like JFK getting killed is historical event, but it happened in 1963. The next year my mother was born. Like, you feel what I'm saying? Like, oh, so it's really not that far. No, 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 no. Pensions were supposed to be starting to be paid out in 1985. Oh, hmm. And then all of a sudden they stopped pensions because not only that, within 10 years they started the 401ks. Because we told, oh, we just gonna rename it. We're not gonna tell y'all not gonna get y'all pension. We're not gonna tell you that pensions, we can't fuck with that no more. So we'll start something different called a 401k. And now people's 401ks are being depleted. They're like, what happened to my 401k? It ain't no money in it. I know. This is why you have to inflate with inflation. That's the only cure for this shit. And I'm not just shameless plugging that shit because it's mine, but I'm keeping it 100 with you. Like, this education system don't work because it doesn't design you to think. So now when you're actually in a space where you got to think, it fucks with you. This right here, this episode as a whole, it's completely changed my perspective on humans. I used to hate y'all. All y'all. Because it'll be like, why y'all don't think? I despise people who can't think. I hated it. I hated it with a passion. Like, if the first thing you want to do is ask me a question, first thing you want to do is like not even sit and ponder, and I can't get mad because you're not supposed to think. This is a culture of people who don't think. Wow. And then they look at the criminal. The criminal is actually a person who thinks and understands that I can't make any other moves outside of criminal ones. The man who ends up selling drugs because he can't find a job, he has to think about his livelihood. But then it's like, I don't want you to think about your livelihood. I just want you to do it, and I'll pay you for whatever livelihood you think you're supposed to have. So now I got a quote unquote good job because I got a good education, but you can't think for yourself. You can't think for yourself. You got to ask for permission to go to the bathroom as an adult. You know what I'm saying? You got to ask to take like time off. Like, there's things we got to do that don't coincide with humanity. And we're comfortable with it because we're obedient now. Like, when people can't think, I'm not mad because we don't take our first critical thinking class until college. So imagine where the cutoff is. It's like, all right, cool. If you don't graduate, you just get your high school diploma. We know y'all niggas ain't gonna think. Now we can see how you think by college. Are you still thinking for yourself, or do you think like us? Because are you struggling with critical thinking, or you just got to see in it, or you got to you might be a problem. You might be a problem, but because we've already programmed you for the first 12 years, for the first 18 years, right? You're going to critically think the way we tell you to critically think. That's why it's in a book and curriculum. We don't think outside of the books that they tell us to use, because those are the boxes that we're being crafted in. You see what I'm saying? All this shit works. So, like I said, the more educated you become, the less you're able to think. So that's why I say it's dangerous, because now when I heard a story of a, sister, she was a PhD student. She killed the man because, quote unquote, he ghosted her or some shit like that. Or he just stopped talking to her. Mind you, this was a long distance relationship. I think she drove from Maryland down to DC to stab this man, or she drove from DC up to Maryland to stab this man. Wow. But they're like, but she educated though. That don't mean shit. Educated means you're well trained. It doesn't mean you're able to think. Now, when we tie in what it is to think, to actually think means that you're using your mind, and you're using both sides of your mind, your emotional side and your thought side. Emotions and thoughts have to go hand in hand with each other. This is why most of our mental health issues are also tied to our feelings. This is why the therapist Therapists are solely there as the buffer because we know that this education system is fucking y'all up. So we got to put a buffer there. You have the option to take it. Do you want therapy or not? And then you get the therapist, they don't give you the tools and everything to actually stop the problem. It's just, how does this make you feel? The goal of therapy, the reasoning behind therapy is to express the emotional side that also comes with your thoughts. But our thoughts and our emotions go hand in hand. So they come out together. So when we're expressing ourselves, we're expressing an emotional thought or a thoughtful emotion and don't realize that's what we're doing. They give us a therapist as the buffer to take that on and say, hey, do this. Now I'm going to go right back into this very environment that keeps me in this space. That's a secure job. I don't need thinkers. I need workers. And at every given place, I'm going to create a buffer to make sure that these motherfuckers never realize what I'm doing. You feel me? Oh, you have a lot on your mind? Here, go see therapy. Go get some therapy. Whatever the case may be. Now you got to keep coming back to therapy because you have to go back into the environment that's fucking up your mind. Why? Because now you have a job, which means now you have to live in this particular state. You have to live in this particular area. You have to live here. You cannot leave where you are. And the US dollar is backed off of that. They can't go nowhere. I got these people for life. And now I got their children and their children's children and their children's children's children and their children's 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 children, all the way down to however many generations I want to have, because all I have to do is keep educating them and make them think that the education that I'm giving them is worthwhile. And don't forget to check out Cafe Clothing, formerly Just Scenes merch. Get all of your intricate designs crafted specifically for the melanated being to develop a positive imagery within self and to have a little bit of fun in the process. From the peace, love, knowledge, and freedom to the dead horses and water designs, all of the styles are crafted for the imagery to make you feel as you're supposed to feel. Because as I always say, the best way to fit in is to stand out. And what better way to stand out than with your exclusive styles from Cafe Clothing. All right. I'm going to go ahead and end it there. That's the education system, y'all. I don't even want to do an episode on the healthcare system no more. This is just the education system, y'all. And I didn't even cover everything that I could potentially talk about because, these things flow. But that's the education system, y'all. You're not designed to think. The very motherfucker who put the money up to fund and create the curriculums and everything say, you're not designed to think. I don't want you to think. Now, that raises another question to me, because it's like when people talk about Bible study and all that shit, like you can only study from the resources and you can only study from the mentality in which you actually educated from. Imagine studying the Bible from an education background that doesn't teach you to think. No wonder niggas can't tell the difference between fantasy and reality. And no wonder motherfuckers just hear shit and then run with it and think they're like, you feel me? Like when I tell people, when they say no weapon forged against you shall prosper, the very motherfucker that told you that created the weapon to work against you in the same verse right before that. But you didn't think about it when you read it because you couldn't. You feel what I'm saying? When the Bible says in Genesis 1:26, let the fruit be thy meat. And then you're arguing me that you're supposed to eat meat because of the something that says eat a split hoof and cut. No, that was understanding. If you thought about that, it was defining this is what you're supposed to eat. But this is saying if you have to eat meat, this is what you eat. Contextualization is important, but actual understanding the words. But people don't follow their religions to actually be better people or to better themselves. It's to be able to regurgitate. Same as the education system, bro. Same as the fucking education system, because the education system, like, you learn to read, then you read to learn. You feel me? Where do you learn to read at? Home, if you in a good, healthy environment. But if not, the school is designed to teach you how to read. That was one of the things that get me, like, people like, Howard students, there's like culturally students are under grade level across the country. They're below grade level. And it's like, how? Because the parents aren't teaching them. The parents can't teach them. Think about it. Education system, healthcare system kind of go hand in hand too, but think about that. The parents, she's off 6 weeks and then she got to go back to work and put a baby in daycare. Now we're creating children that have attachment issues. Some have abandonment issues because of this very thing. You feel me? I have no connection to you. I have no attachment to you because for the first 6 months, I had to go to a babysitter. Now, certain babysitters, you can only operate from 0 to this month or 1 year and older. Like they change. So everything changes. So I'm never in a stable condition where I can actually anchor myself. That doesn't happen until I start creating friends in middle school. And then that changes. But by high school, the friends that I create in high school are pretty much solidified, or the friends in my neighborhood. But all of us think alike because we don't think. We're conditioned the same way. You dig what I mean? And then I go to college and I create friends that are still solidified within a certain way. And then we're all programmed. We're not thinking. This is why we can take on information that's like, wow, this shit don't make sense. Like every year they add a new letter to the LGBTQPWXYZ shit. Every year they add a new one. Now they're finally, they just added maps this year. What is it? Minor attracted persons, that's what they're calling them. Not pedophiles, minor attracted persons. And everyone's okay because niggas ain't thinking. I don't want a nation of thinkers. I need a nation of workers. The average motherfucker, this ain't got nothing to do with me. I got to go back to work. Why? Because the average motherfucker is made to be a worker. The average person will be like, why does the average person do this? Because the average person is a creation, my nigga. I think what they did in slavery, they translated to the whole world. They was like, yo, if we can make niggas behave a certain, imagine if we can do this to niggas in slavery, imagine what we can do to the whole world by giving them a little bit of money. It becomes different. It becomes a whole different game. Because overall, what do you do with this information? I'm not saying drop out of school. I'm not saying, don't, but I'm saying make sure you know how to think. That's why I dropped the episode on the 4 levels of the mind: belief, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. This is why the shit that I be talking about, motherfuckers, like, I never thought about that before. Bingo. Forget about what you never thought about before. Ask yourself, have you ever thought? Think about that. Ask yourself, have you ever thought? That is a critical piece of life. Because if we're not thinking, that means we're not using our emotions or our feelings. We're just in autopilot running through life. You feel me? So we always have to come to terms with the deepest reality and ask ourselves, right? Is this education system really working in our benefit? No, nigga, it's working for your detriment. This is the burning house that Martin created. So now we're asking ourselves, like, why can't black relationships work? Because we're smart. We want to have the high educated motherfucker who's a good, like, why can't we get together anymore? Why can't we? Because the more educated you are, the more difficult it is to work. I promise you, most of the women who keep asking, I can't, like, when I look at these relationships, the high value men in relationships versus the women who need the good man or whatever the case may be, the black ones, the ones that are in odds with each other, they're both highly educated. I don't know how you two highly educated motherfuckers can't put your heads together to work together, but that's the problem. It's two highly educated motherfuckers and they can't coincide with each other. Oh, because I'm high value, you got to do this. I'm this, that, and the third. You got to do this because motherfuckers don't think. They follow curriculums and they behaved well for so long, and now they know that I don't want to have to behave where I'm supposed to be free. But behavior is all I know. Which is why it now becomes easier to move into an interracial relationship when you're under the impression that I have to perform. It's easier to perform for somebody who's not you. That's why it get me. They be like, yo, why are black women so submissive around white men? Why do black men step up and be protected for what? Cause I'm behaving. I'm not being. I get to be with you, and I don't. In being with you, I don't know how to be with you because of the way the structure designed me. It designed me not to look at you as a prize. This has been going on since we was 5 years old, y'all. I get when when a protest happens and shit, we come back black for whatever it is because we know we go to the protest march in the streets, whatever the case may be. We do what they tell us to do. How the NAACP runs is run by white people is wild to me. Like, how'd y'all let them again? They're guiding y'all into what they need y'all. You know what I mean? That's the education system. So as the black couple, it's like, how we going? Now, this is not to say don't be educated, but I've seen, but just from my own perspective, I've seen the most educated people end up in divorce and can't function no more. But I've seen the least educated motherfuckers last forever. How can you explain that? This has got to be something in the education, right? Has to be, because motherfuckers that dropped out, it's like, motherfuckers that you probably went to school with that didn't graduate or whatever case. We're like, damn, y'all still together after all this time. But it's motherfuckers who have gone to higher levels of academia and can't keep a stable relationship because the whole shit is based on competition and I'm better than you. I'm better than you. And now when you're programmed into a conditional society that teaches you that black people are better than nobody, and now I'm a black person that's highly educated. Oh, I'm better than you. Oh, no, no, black people, no. I'm the only anomaly here. I'm supposed to be the only one up here. So now I don't want you because now I become token. I become token instead of chosen. That's different. All because of the education system. Yeah, so yes, Martin, you did integrate us into a burning house. Because, I want my kids to go to the best schools. The best schools are the schools like Bel Air. And if y'all are watching Bel Air, if y'all watch how Bel Air started, what happened? When Carlton was on the basketball team, lacrosse team, or whatever the case may be, he's doing the smutty dance, and it's a white dude singing he's actually saying the word nigga in these parts. And Carlton's like, it's not that serious. Do you not get what I'm saying? If the education works, if you get a good one, you're not gonna like black people. And if you're not gonna like black people, but not only that you're not gonna like black people, you're gonna be one of those people who think, oh, the atrocities of black people, it's time for us to get over it and move on. You can't get over atrocities that are still happening. Like, nigga, the fuck? All right, where y'all get that from? But again, this is educated shit. This is what it is to be educated, y'all. As a motherfucker who's well learned and educated, I can tell that there's a stark difference. Stark difference. I had a whole narcissistic ego about myself the more educated I was. Cause like, what? Nigga, don't you dare tell. Now, the man that knows something knows that he knows nothing at all. That's how we know we don't know shit, because we think we know it all. Motherfuckers be like, yo, I got A's in this, and you stupid as fuck. But you don't know basic shit. I got homies right now, but like, yo, bro, like sometimes it get intimidating talking to you because no, it shouldn't be intimidating talking to me because I'm forcing you to think. That should excite you. But if it gets intimidated, it's because you are trying to compete with my information, not trying to understand what the fuck I'm saying. That's a you problem. That's not me, but that's a problem of the culture and the society because the education system works this way. Motherfuckers get so smart that they get stupid. It's no different than the religion. The deeper motherfuckers get into believing in their God, the more of an atheist they become. Weird, right? It's like, you sure you really believe in God, bro? Like, how's the devil the most operative motherfucker in your life? Because motherfuckers really don't think. They don't think. They follow the systems that teach you to trust authority. You feel me? That's how slavery worked. But they just decided not to be inhumane with it anymore. It's a different level of inhumanity. But they decided not to beat people anymore with it and shit. They said, all right, look, let's give them money and make them feel like they're free. That's how we'll do it this time. And this time we'll be able to put everybody in shackles. And now we can ostracize them and we can make them think that they're better than the others because, oh, you went to prison. Oh, I didn't go to prison. I dodged this. I used to love that shit. I used to love saying that shit. I ain't been arrested. I've been arrested, but I ain't go to jail. I ain't got no charges. It felt good to say. It felt real good to say. But then it's like in the long run, at the end of the day, I was like, yo, the system, it was supposed to happen that way. I wasn't supposed to escape that shit. I wasn't. 1 in 3 make it. I was like, wow, the numbers didn't lie because the system, the statistics validate the efficacy of a system. And this system is the education system that has a couple $1 billion backed by it. Now it funds itself. I don't know what it is in other states, but we have in North Carolina the education lottery. How the fuck the kids are getting dumber, but we're putting more money into the education lottery? Oh shit. Because it's like, okay, what is the education going for? The indoctrination to make motherfuckers not think. This is why you have to be told so much. This is why we have stoplights. This is why we have certain things and shit like that. Because it's like we need to maintain and control the order because we don't want these motherfuckers to think logically about the shit. It's a cold game. It's a cold game. That's why I tell people they got you believing that being a child is a matter of your age. So by the time you're legally, this is why they put legalities on age. Because you mentally not there. You definitely not morally there. And you're definitely not spiritually the age that you're supposed to be. Because it doesn't teach you to develop, it teach you to stay on a certain milestone level. You feel me? For motherfuckers to tell me that I'm ahead of my time, and they're like, yo, I naturally can. The window for the people that are like in my age above is like I've gone anywhere between 10 to 20 years as far as being able to, being that. So I'm like, yo, my soul, my essence is 20 years ahead of motherfuckers. How in the fuck am I in the grade level with the same people that's the same age as me? When I was in kindergarten, they wanted to skip me to the second grade. And my mom was like, nah, I want him to go through his right developmental milestones year by year. I'm not knocking it. That's why she had to understood, but it was like there was never going to be a developmental milestone for me. I was sedated, as much of us are. The education system is not designed to make you a better person, it's to make you an average person. That's it. That's it. And now we're going to grade the quality of how average you are. All of y'all niggas is average. From A to F, A to D, A to E, whatever. All of us are average. But they put a certain adjective in front of how average we are. You're above average. You're kind of average. You're below average. Nigga, y'all are all average because we know how to make average motherfuckers. Oh, that's why if you look at the content creation, that's why the content creators on Instagram are what they are. They let you remix a reel and the motherfucker just point to their ear. Listen, this shit, you don't know. Like, why couldn't you make that individual content? You see what I'm saying? Like, why couldn't you make that content? Feel me? As a rapper, as a person who makes music, like when I don't like the music that's being made, I make my own shit. And now people like, cause that's what I choose to do. How come you can't create what you like? Because you're not able to think. That's the whole point. So when you're not able to think, I create everything that's supposed to stimulate you. I'm gonna create your music. I'm gonna create your entertainment. I'm gonna create everything that you need and give it to you and make you feel like, oh, you don't have to, because you don't have to work for anything when you're my worker. Because if you're a thinker, then when you get to that certain level, you'll either put me out of business or whatever the case may be. Then we got another problem. But nah, that's the game, y'all. That's the game. That's why I don't get mad. I used to be shocked. And there's like literally this epiphany just happened not too long ago because I have an episode in this season where I'm talking about like, you know, people not thinking and how it frustrates me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, why don't motherfuckers want to think? They can't. I'm not even mad at it no more. I got, like I said, this episode, like, I got such a peace with people now. Like, when people don't know, I'm like, you're right. But it's scary because imagine if you know the education system doesn't design you to think. When people just start talking, it's like, I know. I know. It's like, yo, this shit is just taught you to sound smart. Can you professionally be a representation of my brand? That's it. And say what I need you to say when I need you to say how. I don't need you to think about what I do so that way you can't question it and change in reality. So when I give you this input, you give me the output, which is what? Artificial intelligence. But I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. Go kiss your babies. Make sure they eat their vegetables. I'm not saying educate. I'm not saying homeschool your kids. I'm not saying any of that shit. I'm just saying know what you're sending your babies into. This is what our education system is. So you now know, if you didn't know already, you have to educate your babies outside of basic curriculum shit. Otherwise, they're just programmed into other shit. When I look at the curriculum, yeah, I had the curriculum of school, but the reason why my mom also had me learning other shit, and I would just naturally wanted to do other shit. I learned about photography. I was playing with animals, all kind of other shit, like shit that I wasn't learning in school. Pro black like a motherfucker, because all I did was watch black shit. You feel me? The program was there. The program was there. So either you're going to realize how powerful the education system is and learn how to work around it and learn how to use it, or you're going to continue to fall victim to it and fall into every statistical category they put you in. Understand, whatever you didn't, nobody beats the odds. Like, I used to brag about that shit, going to college. Yeah, man, I beat the odds, man. I ain't go to jail. I ain't do no time and none of that shit. Like, no, you didn't beat the odds. Because a part of the whole pie was the part of the whole, like I said, if 70% of men raised of single mothers go to prison, it's not the single mothers that we need to focus on. We need to focus on how in the fuck you niggas place the bet that 100% of single mothers their kids are gonna go to jail, and now you broke it down to 70%. That's a very high statistic. That means whatever it is involved in that system, it works. What other systems do you have in place like that? You feel me? Now when I say you take masculinity out of the home, this is what it is. Masculinity. The ability to analysis and thinking. Ain't no masculinity in this world because nobody's thinking. Everybody's just acting off shit, following rules and acting. That's it. So now we like, why can't people in why can't the people in South Africa, Brazil, or whatever these places, just like the black people there, just say, stop, we're gonna stop the oppression, get up, because they're educated not to. They're educated to align with their oppression. That's why I tell y'all, you gotta ask yourself, you gotta make sure it's three different. Do they wanna stop being oppressed, or do they really want freedom? It's not the same. It's not the same. And it's tied into indoctrination. So with your babies, hey, you can do however you want to do them. But me personally, just stay on point. I'm going to homeschool my kids. That's why I put myself in the position that I'm in, because I seen this early, but I knew what it was going to take. Like, they'll never go back to a school again. Fuck no. They'll never go back to a school again. Now, if me and their mother has to, now, no, let me say that. I'll let them go to high school so they can go to prom. I'm not going to let them. Prom is a very good milestone. I'm not going to let them miss that. So they can go to high school. But other shit, because I need to already have them solidified. I need to make sure they think before they go in this motherfucker. Just like my mama had me thinking before I went in there. That's why school was so easy. I didn't realize it. Now I realize why school was hard for people, because it's like, oh, you weren't supposed to be thinking. It is not even your fault. We got to break that cycle with our babies, because going forward, we all have Aquarian babies now. Generation Alpha started now. Everybody's Aquarian. So either make them stay in that belief Piscean shit, or do what you do. But I'm gonna go ahead and edit there because it's long and I got shit to do. So go kiss your babies, make sure they eat their vegetables, and I'm gonna see y'all all on the next one. Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom. I'm out. I said I'm out. Damn.